The radio crackled with desperation. "We've lost 12 men in the last hour. The enemy snipers have us completely pinned down. Request immediate extraction." But extraction wasn't coming. Not for another 6 hours. What happened next would become legend in military circles worldwide. A single person would turn the tide of an impossible situation, armed with nothing but skill, determination, and a rifle that had never missed its mark when it mattered most. This is the true story of how one woman changed everything in exactly 12 minutes, proving that sometimes the most unlikely hero emerges from the most desperate circumstances. Her name was classified for years, her actions buried in military files marked top secret. But now, decades later, the truth can finally be told. Some said it was impossible. Others called it luck. But those who were there that day knew better. They witnessed something extraordinary, a display of precision, courage, and tactical brilliance that defied every expectation and saved countless lives. This is her story. The morning sun cast long shadows across the dusty landscape of eastern Afghanistan, where Staff Sergeant Maria Santos adjusted her position behind a rocky outcrop. The year was 2011, and her special operations team had been tracking a high-value target for 3 weeks through some of the most dangerous terrain in the region. What should have been a routine reconnaissance mission was about to become a nightmare that would test every skill she had learned in her 8 years of military service. Maria came from a small farming town in Texas, where her father had taught her to hunt from the age of 12. She could drop a deer at 300 yards before most kids her age could properly tie their shoes. Her grandfather, a World War II veteran, had shared stories of legendary snipers and marksmen who changed the course of battles with their exceptional skills. Those stories had inspired Maria to join the military, where she quickly discovered that her natural talent with a rifle was something truly special. During basic training, her instructors noticed that Maria never missed. Not once. While other recruits struggled to hit targets at standard distances, she was consistently placing shots with precision that made seasoned drill sergeants stop and take notice. Her calm demeanor under pressure and natural understanding of wind patterns, elevation adjustments, and target movement led to her selection for advanced sniper training. She graduated at the top of her class, earning recognition as one of the finest marksmen the military had seen in years. The mission that would define her career began 3 weeks earlier when intelligence reports indicated that a notorious Taliban commander was operating in the region. This commander had been responsible for coordinating attacks that had killed dozens of American and Allied soldiers. His capture or elimination had become a top priority for coalition forces. Maria's team, consisting of 12 highly trained special operations soldiers, was tasked with locating and eliminating this threat. The team had been moving carefully through the mountainous terrain, following intelligence reports and local informant tips. They had established several observation posts and had been conducting surveillance operations, trying to pinpoint the exact location of their target. The area was known for heavy Taliban presence, but intelligence suggested that with careful planning and execution, they could complete their mission without significant resistance. Everything changed at dawn on the 4th day of their operation. Maria's team had established a temporary base in a small valley surrounded by rocky hills and sparse vegetation. The location provided good cover and multiple escape routes, or so they thought. They had spent the night observing a compound approximately 2 miles away, where their target was believed to be hiding. As the sun began to rise, Maria noticed something that made her blood run cold. Small glints of light were reflecting from multiple positions in the surrounding hills. She had seen those reflections before. They were the telltale signs of rifle scopes catching the morning sunlight. Her team wasn't alone in this valley. They had walked into what appeared to be a carefully planned ambush. "Contact," Maria whispered into her radio, alerting her team leader to the developing situation. Within seconds, the peaceful morning erupted into chaos. The first shot rang out from a position approximately 400 yards to the north, followed immediately by gunfire from at least 6 different locations surrounding their position. The enemy had positioned themselves perfectly, creating a deadly crossfire that trapped Maria's team in the valley floor. The team's commanding officer, Captain James Rodriguez, immediately began coordinating their response. He was a 20-year veteran who had served multiple tours in both Iraq and Afghanistan. His calm leadership had gotten them through numerous dangerous situations, but this was different. The enemy snipers were positioned at extreme ranges, making them difficult to locate and even harder to engage effectively. Within the first 10 minutes of contact, 2 members of Maria's team had been wounded by precise sniper fire. The enemy marksmen were clearly skilled and well-equipped, maintaining disciplined fire that kept the American soldiers pinned down behind inadequate cover. Every attempt to move resulted in immediate and accurate enemy fire that forced them back into defensive positions. Private First Class Danny Chun, the team's communications specialist, managed to establish contact with their base despite the intense enemy fire. His radio crackled with static as he transmitted their desperate situation to headquarters. "Base, this is Team Sierra. We are taking heavy sniper fire from multiple positions. We have 2 wounded and are requesting immediate air support and extraction." The response from base was not what they wanted to hear. Weather conditions in the region had grounded all helicopter operations for the next 6 hours. Close air support was also unavailable due to mechanical issues with the aircraft that had been designated for their area of operations. The team was completely on their own, surrounded by enemy snipers in a position that offered little protection and fewer options for escape. Captain Rodriguez gathered his remaining team members behind the largest rock formation available, which provided only minimal protection from the enemy fire. He quickly assessed their situation and realized they were facing a nearly impossible challenge. The enemy snipers had positioned themselves at ranges that made counter-sniper operations extremely difficult with standard infantry weapons. Maria examined the terrain around their position using her high-powered scope. She could identify muzzle flashes and occasional movement from at least 8 different sniper positions scattered throughout the surrounding hills. The enemy had clearly been planning this ambush for some time, selecting positions that provided excellent fields of fire while remaining difficult to assault or counterattack. The wounded team members were Sergeant Mike Torres and Corporal Lisa Park. Sergeant Torres had taken a bullet through his shoulder, while Corporal Park had been hit in the leg. Both wounds were serious, but not immediately life-threatening, provided they could receive medical attention within a reasonable time frame. However, the constant enemy fire made it impossible for the team medic to provide anything more than basic first aid. As the morning progressed, the situation became increasingly desperate. The enemy snipers maintained constant pressure, taking carefully aimed shots whenever any team member attempted to move or return fire. Their precision and patience suggested these were not typical Taliban fighters, but rather highly trained marksmen who understood advanced sniper tactics and techniques. Maria studied each enemy position through her scope, taking mental notes of distances, elevation differences, wind conditions, and potential approach routes. Her training had prepared her for exactly this type of situation, but the sheer number of enemy positions made a traditional counter-sniper response nearly impossible. She would need to think differently to find a solution that her enemies wouldn't expect. The temperature was rising as the sun climbed higher, and the rocky terrain provided no relief from the intense heat. The wounded soldiers were beginning to suffer from dehydration and heat stress in addition to their injuries. Time was running out, and conventional military tactics weren't providing any viable solutions to their desperate situation. Captain Rodriguez called for a team meeting, gathering his soldiers behind the largest available cover. His face was grim as he outlined their limited options. They could attempt to fight their way out, but the enemy positions made that virtually suicidal. They could wait for extraction, but that was still hours away, and their wounded teammates might not survive that long under current conditions. It was then that Maria made a decision that would change everything. She had been studying the enemy positions and had identified what she believed was a weakness in their deployment. The enemy snipers had positioned themselves to create overlapping fields of fire, but that same positioning had created a blind spot that might allow for a completely different approach to the problem. Maria approached Captain Rodriguez with a plan that seemed impossible to everyone who heard it. She proposed to eliminate all 8 enemy sniper positions single-handedly, using a combination of advanced marksmanship techniques and tactical movement that would require perfect execution under extreme pressure. The plan was dangerous beyond measure, but it represented their only realistic chance of survival. The weight of her team's survival rested entirely on her shoulders as she prepared to attempt something that military textbooks would later describe as impossible. She checked her rifle one final time, ensuring that every component was functioning perfectly. Her breathing slowed to the controlled rhythm she had practiced thousands of times during training. The next 12 minutes would determine whether Maria Santos became a legend or another casualty of an impossible situation in the mountains of Afghanistan. Maria spread a tactical map across the rocky ground, weighing down the corners with small stones to prevent the desert wind from disturbing her calculations. Using a pencil, she marked the approximate positions of each enemy sniper based on muzzle flashes and bullet trajectories she had observed over the past hour. Her team gathered around her, their faces showing a mixture of hope and skepticism as she outlined a plan that defied every conventional military doctrine they had ever learned. The enemy snipers had positioned themselves in a rough semicircle around the valley floor, with distances ranging from 300 to 800 yards from the American position. Each enemy marksman had selected locations that provided excellent cover, clear fields of fire, and multiple escape routes. Their positioning demonstrated sophisticated tactical planning and suggested they were dealing with highly trained adversaries rather than typical insurgent fighters. Maria pointed to each marked position on the map, explaining the specific challenges each target presented. Position Alpha was located on a rocky ridge approximately 400 yards to the northwest, positioned behind natural stone formations that provided excellent protection. The sniper there had been the most active, taking carefully aimed shots every few minutes and demonstrating exceptional accuracy. Position Bravo sat on an elevated outcrop 600 yards to the north, where the enemy marksman had dug in behind prepared defensive positions. This sniper had been providing covering fire for the others, suppressing any American attempts to maneuver or return effective fire. Positions Charlie and Delta were located on opposite sides of a narrow ravine approximately 500 yards to the northeast. These two snipers had been working in coordination, with one providing security while the other engaged targets. Their positioning allowed them to cover each other's blind spots while maintaining continuous pressure on the trapped American team. The remaining 4 positions, designated Echo through Hotel, were scattered throughout the surrounding hills at distances ranging from 500 to 800 yards. Each had been carefully selected to provide overlapping fields of fire while remaining difficult to locate and engage. The enemy snipers had clearly spent significant time preparing this ambush site. Captain Rodriguez studied Maria's analysis and shook his head slowly. Santos, what you're proposing is impossible. 8 targets at those distances, with that level of cover, while they're actively trying to kill you. No one can make those shots under these conditions. Maria looked directly at her commanding officer, her voice calm and steady despite the intensity of their situation. Sir, I've been studying these positions for over an hour. I've identified a weakness in their deployment that we can exploit. They've positioned themselves to create overlapping fields of fire, but that same positioning has created a blind spot on the eastern ridge that runs parallel to their line. She traced a route on the map with her finger, showing how she could move along the eastern ridge while remaining concealed from the enemy snipers. The ridge provided natural cover and would allow her to engage each position from an unexpected angle. However, the plan required her to cover nearly 2 miles of dangerous terrain while carrying her heavy sniper rifle and equipment. Staff Sergeant Kevin Murphy, the team's demolitions expert, raised the obvious concern that everyone was thinking. Santos, even if you can get into position without being detected, you're talking about engaging 8 targets in rapid succession. The moment you fire the first shot, every enemy sniper will know your location. They'll all be trying to kill you before you can engage the second target. Maria had already considered this problem and had developed what she believed was a viable solution. That's where the timing becomes critical. I've been watching their firing patterns, and I've identified a rotation in their observation schedules. There's approximately a 90-second window every 15 minutes when their attention is focused on our position rather than their surrounding areas. She explained that the enemy snipers had fallen into a predictable routine over the past hour. They would concentrate their fire on the American position for several minutes. Then, shift to observation mode while they assessed the effectiveness of their shots and planned their next engagement. During these observation periods, their attention was focused primarily on the valley floor rather than potential threats from other directions. The plan required Maria to reach her initial firing position during one of these observation windows, then engage all 8 targets in rapid succession before they could locate her position and return effective fire. The margin for error was essentially zero. A single missed shot or a delay of even a few seconds could result in her death and doom the rest of her team. Sergeant First Class Amy Williams, the team's medic, voiced another critical concern. "Santos, you're talking about making 8 precision shots at extreme range while under combat stress. The longest confirmed sniper kill in military history was made under controlled conditions with extensive preparation. You're proposing to exceed that standard 8 times while people are actively trying to kill you." Maria understood the skepticism, but she also knew something that her teammates didn't fully appreciate. During her advanced sniper training, she had participated in classified exercises designed to test the absolute limits of human marksmanship ability. These exercises involved engaging multiple targets at extreme range under simulated combat conditions. Maria had not only completed these exercises successfully, but had set records that still stood at the training facility. More importantly, Maria possessed an almost supernatural ability to remain calm under pressure. Her instructors had noted during training that her heart rate actually decreased during high-stress shooting scenarios, allowing her to maintain the precise muscle control required for extreme-range precision shooting. This unusual physiological response, combined with her exceptional natural talent, made her capable of shots that would be impossible for most marksmen. The rifle Maria would be using was a specialized weapon system that had been customized specifically for her shooting style and physical characteristics. The rifle was chambered in .338 Lapua Magnum, a cartridge designed specifically for extreme-range precision shooting. The weapon featured a custom barrel that had been hand-fitted to her preferred ammunition, a precision trigger system that broke at exactly 2 pounds of pressure, and an advanced optical system that allowed for precise range estimation and ballistic calculations. Maria had fired thousands of rounds through this particular rifle during training and combat operations. She knew exactly how it performed under various weather conditions, how the bullet trajectory changed with temperature and altitude variations, and how to compensate for wind conditions at different ranges. The rifle was essentially an extension of her own body, responding to her touch with mechanical precision. Captain Rodriguez realized that conventional options had been exhausted and that Maria's plan, however unlikely, represented their only realistic chance of survival. The wounded soldiers were deteriorating, ammunition was running low, and the enemy snipers showed no signs of withdrawing or reducing their pressure. Without immediate action, the entire team would likely be killed or captured within the next few hours. The captain made the decision to authorize Maria's mission, despite his personal reservations about its chances of success. He gathered the remaining team members and assigned them specific roles in supporting Maria's attempt. They would provide covering fire when possible, monitor enemy movements, and be prepared to extract her if the mission failed. Maria began her final preparations, checking every piece of equipment that she would carry on her mission. Her rifle was cleaned and lubricated to perfection, with backup cleaning supplies in case dust or debris interfered with its operation. She carried precisely calculated amounts of ammunition, with each round selected for optimal performance under current environmental conditions. Her optical equipment included a laser rangefinder accurate to within 1 yard at distances up to 1,500 meters, wind measurement devices that could detect air movement variations of less than 1 mile per hour, and backup iron sights in case her primary optics were damaged during the mission. The tactical gear Maria selected was chosen specifically to minimize noise and visual signature while providing essential protection. Her camouflage uniform had been modified with natural materials collected from the local area, helping her blend perfectly with the surrounding terrain. She carried minimal equipment to reduce weight and bulk that could interfere with her movement or shooting position. Most critically, Maria spent several minutes in meditation, using breathing techniques and mental preparation methods that had been taught during her advanced training. She visualized each shot in sequence, mentally rehearsing the movement between firing positions and the precise aim points required for each target. This mental preparation was as important as her physical equipment in determining the mission's success. As she prepared to begin her movement toward the eastern ridge, Maria looked back at her teammates one final time. These were men and women she had served with for months, people whose lives now depended entirely on her ability to accomplish something that military experts would later declare impossible. The weight of their trust was both inspiring and terrifying as she prepared to begin the most challenging 12 minutes of her entire military career. Maria began her movement at exactly 0847 hours, slipping away from her team's position during a brief lull in enemy fire. She moved with the fluid grace of someone who had spent years perfecting the art of tactical movement, each step calculated to minimize noise and avoid detection. The rocky terrain provided natural concealment, but it also presented numerous hazards that could end her mission before it truly began. The first 50 meters were the most dangerous, as she had to cross open ground that was potentially visible to multiple enemy positions. Maria used a combination of low crawling and short rushes between cover points, timing her movements to coincide with natural sounds like wind gusts that could mask any noise she might make. Her training in advanced camouflage and concealment techniques proved invaluable as she navigated terrain that offered minimal natural cover. The eastern ridge that formed the backbone of her plan was approximately 300 meters from her starting position, but the route she needed to take was nearly twice that distance due to the need to avoid detection. Maria moved in a wide arc that took advantage of natural terrain features, following a dry creek bed for part of the journey and using sparse vegetation to break up her outline when crossing open areas. Every few meters, Maria would pause and use her scope to check the positions of the enemy snipers. She needed to ensure that none of them had shifted their positions or altered their observation patterns since she had begun her movement. The slightest change in their deployment could compromise her entire plan and result in her walking directly into an enemy field of fire. The temperature was rising steadily as the sun climbed higher in the cloudless sky. Maria could feel sweat beginning to form under her equipment, but she maintained strict hydration discipline to prevent any degradation in her physical performance. The weight of her rifle and equipment created additional challenges as she navigated increasingly difficult terrain. Approximately halfway to her objective, Maria encountered an unexpected obstacle. A section of the route she had planned to use had been damaged by recent rockfall, leaving a gap that would require her to expose herself to potential observation from at least 2 enemy positions. She was forced to deviate from her planned route, adding precious minutes to her movement time. The alternative route led Maria through a narrow ravine filled with loose rock and thorny vegetation that caught at her equipment and uniform. She had to move even more slowly through this section, testing each foothold before committing her weight and carefully managing her rifle to prevent any sound that might betray her position to the enemy snipers. As she moved, Maria continued to monitor enemy activity through brief observations with her scope. The enemy snipers maintained their established pattern of concentrated fire followed by observation periods. But she noticed subtle changes in their behavior that suggested they were becoming increasingly frustrated with their inability to eliminate the trapped American team. Position Alpha, the most active of the enemy snipers, had increased his rate of fire and was taking less time between shots. This suggested either declining ammunition supplies or growing impatience, both of which could work in Maria's favor. Impatient snipers made mistakes, and declining ammunition meant they would be less able to engage her effectively once she began her counterattack. The climb up the eastern ridge required Maria to use mountaineering techniques she had learned during specialized training exercises. The slope was steep and covered with loose rock that could cascade down the hillside if disturbed. She had to test each handhold and foothold carefully, ensuring that her movement wouldn't trigger a rockfall that would alert every enemy position to her presence. Near the top of the ridge, Maria discovered that the terrain was even more favorable than she had hoped. A series of natural rock formations provided excellent concealment while offering clear lines of sight to all 8 enemy positions. The elevation advantage would help compensate for the extreme ranges involved in her planned shots. Maria reached her primary firing position at 0912 hours, giving her approximately 3 minutes to prepare before the next enemy observation window would begin. She quickly established a stable shooting platform using the natural terrain, arranging her equipment for optimal accessibility and setting up backup positions in case she needed to relocate during the engagement. The view from her position was spectacular and terrifying. She could clearly see all 8 enemy sniper positions scattered throughout the surrounding hills. Through her high-powered scope, she could occasionally catch glimpses of movement as the enemy marksmen adjusted their positions or prepared for their next shots. They appeared completely unaware of her presence on the eastern ridge. Maria used her laser rangefinder to measure the exact distance to each target, recording the information in a small notebook that she would reference during the engagement. The ranges varied from 387 meters for the closest position to 743 meters for the most distant target. Each shot would require different ballistic calculations and adjustments for environmental factors. Wind conditions were relatively stable, with a consistent breeze from the southwest at approximately 8 miles per hour. However, the complex terrain created microclimates that could affect bullet trajectory differently at various ranges. Maria made careful observations of wind indicators at different distances, noting how vegetation and dust patterns revealed air movement variations. The atmospheric conditions were ideal for precision shooting. The clear, dry air provided excellent visibility, and the temperature was within the optimal range for her ammunition's performance characteristics. Maria calculated the ballistic adjustments required for each target, factoring in range, elevation difference, wind conditions, and the specific performance characteristics of her rifle and ammunition combination. Position Alpha would be her first target, as eliminating the most active enemy sniper would provide immediate relief for her trapped teammates. The range was 387 meters with a 17-meter elevation difference in her favor. Wind conditions would require a minimal correction, and the target's position behind natural rock formations meant she would need to wait for the right moment when her target was properly exposed. Her second target would be Position Bravo at 542 meters, located on an elevated outcrop that provided the enemy sniper with an excellent field of fire over the valley floor. This target represented the greatest tactical threat to her team and needed to be eliminated quickly before the enemy could coordinate a response to her attack. Positions Charlie and Delta, the coordinated pair in the ravine, would be her third and fourth targets. The ranges were 496 and 518 meters respectively, and she planned to engage them in rapid succession to prevent one from alerting the other to her presence. The timing would be critical, as she estimated having no more than 15 seconds before the remaining enemy snipers realized they were under attack. The final 4 positions, Echo through Hotel, were scattered at distances ranging from 612 to 743 meters. These targets would be engaged in order of decreasing tactical threat rather than simple geographic convenience. Maria planned to prioritize targets that posed the greatest danger to her team while maintaining the element of surprise for as long as possible. Maria checked her watch and realized that the next enemy observation window would begin in less than 90 seconds. She made final adjustments to her shooting position, ensuring that her rifle was perfectly stable and that she had clear access to her ammunition and equipment. Her breathing slowed to the controlled rhythm that she had practiced thousands of times during training. Through her scope, Maria could see her first target beginning to shift position slightly, preparing for another shot at her teammates below. She centered her crosshairs on the precise spot where she expected him to appear, adjusting for range, wind, and elevation. Her finger found the trigger and applied the exact pressure that would bring her to the breaking point without firing. The moment of truth was approaching rapidly. Maria's heart rate had slowed to the steady rhythm that her instructors had noted during training, and her hands were completely steady despite the enormous pressure of the situation. She had done everything possible to prepare for this moment, and now success or failure would depend on her ability to execute flawlessly under the most challenging conditions imaginable. The first shot would announce her presence to every enemy sniper in the area, transforming her from an unknown threat into the primary target for 7 remaining marksmen. Once she pulled the trigger, There would be no opportunity for hesitation or second thoughts. She would have to engage all 8 targets in rapid succession or face almost certain death. Maria took one final breath and began the sequence that would either save her team or cost her everything. At exactly 0914 hours, Maria squeezed the trigger of her rifle for the first time. The .338 Lapua Magnum cartridge sent its projectile downrange at over 2,800 feet per second, covering the 387 meters to position Alpha in less than half a second. Through her scope, Maria watched as her bullet found its mark precisely where she had aimed, eliminating the enemy sniper who had been terrorizing her team for the past hour. The sound of her rifle shot echoed across the valley, immediately alerting the remaining 7 enemy snipers that they were under attack from an unexpected direction. Maria had anticipated this reaction and was already transitioning to her second target before the sound of her first shot had finished reverberating through the hills. Position Bravo, located 542 meters away on the elevated outcrop, required a more complex ballistic calculation due to the increased range and significant elevation difference. Maria adjusted her scope settings with practiced precision, accounting for the additional bullet drop and wind drift that would affect her shot at the extended distance. She could see movement at the target position as the enemy sniper began to react to the sound of her first shot. The second shot fired at 0914 hours and 23 seconds, just as the enemy sniper at position Bravo was attempting to locate the source of the unexpected attack. Maria's bullet struck home with devastating accuracy, eliminating the second threat before her target could effectively respond. The tactical advantage provided by this position was now neutralized, giving her teammates below some relief from the constant suppressive fire. Positions Charlie and Delta represented Maria's greatest challenge yet, as she needed to engage both targets in rapid succession before they could coordinate a response or take effective cover. The ranges were 496 and 518 meters respectively, with both snipers positioned where they could potentially observe each other's locations. If one saw the other fall, he would immediately know the approximate direction of Maria's attack. Maria's third shot eliminated the sniper at position Charlie at 0914 hours and 51 seconds. She immediately shifted her aim to position Delta, where she could see the second enemy sniper beginning to react to the elimination of his partner. This target was moving, requiring Maria to lead her shot slightly to account for the enemy's movement across her field of view. The fourth shot fired at 0915 hours and 8 seconds, successfully engaging the moving target at position Delta. Maria's ability to hit a moving target at over 500 meters while under extreme time pressure demonstrated the exceptional level of skill that had made her selection for this mission possible. 4 enemy snipers had been eliminated in less than 2 minutes, but the most challenging targets still remained. Position Echo was located 612 meters away on a rocky prominence that provided excellent visibility across the entire valley. The enemy sniper at this position had clearly realized that his colleagues were being systematically eliminated and was attempting to locate Maria's position. She could see him moving carefully behind his cover, trying to scan the eastern ridge where she was positioned. Maria's fifth shot at 0915 hours and 34 seconds required her most precise ballistic calculations yet. The 612-meter range, combined with complex wind conditions created by the terrain features around position Echo, demanded perfect execution. She had to account for multiple factors including bullet drop, wind drift, and the slight movement of her target as he searched for her location. The bullet found its mark with characteristic precision, eliminating the fifth enemy sniper just as he was beginning to acquire Maria's approximate position through his own scope. The elimination of position Echo significantly reduced the enemy's ability to observe and coordinate their remaining defensive efforts. Position Foxtrot presented unique challenges due to its location in a narrow crevice between 2 large rocks at a range of 667 meters. The confined space provided excellent protection for the enemy sniper, but also limited his fields of fire and movement options. Maria could see only small portions of her target through the gap between the rocks, requiring her to wait for the precise moment when enough of her target was visible to ensure a successful shot. The sixth shot fired at 0916 hours and 2 seconds, threading through the narrow gap to eliminate the enemy sniper who had thought himself safely concealed. Maria's ability to make such a precise shot through such a small opening demonstrated why her instructors had considered her capabilities to be exceptional even among elite military marksmen. Position Golf was situated 698 meters away on a slope that provided natural camouflage, but offered limited cover from Maria's elevated position on the eastern ridge. The enemy sniper at this location had begun moving erratically, clearly aware that his colleagues were being eliminated but unable to determine the exact source of the threat. His unpredictable movement made him a more difficult target. Maria tracked the enemy sniper's movement pattern for several seconds, identifying a rhythm in his displacement between cover positions. She calculated the lead time required to intercept him during his next movement between rocks. The seventh shot fired at 0916 hours and 28 seconds, successfully engaging the moving target at the extended range. Position Hotel represented the ultimate test of Maria's marksmanship abilities. Located 743 meters away on a distant ridgeline, this target was at the absolute limit of her rifle's effective range under combat conditions. The enemy sniper at this position had excellent concealment and was demonstrating tactical patience, remaining still and hidden while trying to locate Maria's position through careful observation. The range required Maria to use the maximum elevation adjustment available on her rifle scope, and the complex terrain between her position and the target created variable wind conditions that were difficult to predict accurately. She spent additional time studying wind indicators at different points along the bullet's flight path, noting how dust and vegetation movement revealed air current variations. The atmospheric conditions had changed slightly since she had begun her engagement sequence. The rising temperature was creating thermal updrafts that could affect bullet trajectory, and she had to adjust her calculations accordingly. Maria also had to consider the cumulative effects of sustained shooting on her rifle's barrel temperature, which could influence the weapon's accuracy. At 0916 hours and 57 seconds, Maria fired her eighth and final shot of the engagement. The bullet traveled for over 1 second before reaching Position Hotel, covering a horizontal distance of 743 meters while dropping nearly 30 feet due to gravity. Environmental factors including wind drift and atmospheric pressure caused additional deviations that Maria had calculated and compensated for in her aim point selection. Through her scope, Maria watched as her final target was eliminated with the same precision that had characterized every shot in the sequence. All 8 enemy snipers had been neutralized in exactly 12 minutes and 57 seconds, accomplished through a combination of exceptional marksmanship skill, tactical planning, and flawless execution under extreme pressure. The sudden silence that followed was almost deafening after the constant gunfire that had characterized the morning. Maria remained in position for several additional minutes, carefully observing each former enemy position to ensure that no additional threats remained active. She also monitored the surrounding terrain for signs of reinforcement or additional enemy forces that might be responding to the sound of battle. Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through her radio with a mixture of disbelief and relief. "Santos, confirm all targets neutralized. We show no enemy fire from any previous positions." Maria confirmed the elimination of all 8 enemy snipers and began her movement back to rejoin her team. The return journey to her team's position took approximately 20 minutes, as Maria moved carefully to ensure that no additional enemy forces were present in the area. She maintained tactical awareness throughout her movement, knowing that the sound of the engagement might have attracted other hostile forces to their location. When Maria finally rejoined her team, she was greeted with expressions of amazement and gratitude from soldiers who had witnessed something unprecedented in their military experience. The wounded team members were stable and could now receive proper medical attention without the constant threat of enemy sniper fire. The impossible had been accomplished through a combination of exceptional skill, careful planning, and flawless execution under the most challenging circumstances imaginable. Maria Santos had achieved something that military experts would later declare to be beyond the normal limits of human capability, saving the lives of her entire team through 12 minutes of perfect marksmanship. The helicopter extraction arrived exactly 6 hours later, as originally scheduled, but the tactical situation had transformed completely from the desperate emergency that had existed that morning. Instead of extracting casualties from an active combat zone, the medical team found wounded soldiers receiving proper treatment in a secure area that had been cleared of all enemy threats. Captain Rodriguez provided a detailed briefing to the extraction team commander, describing the morning's events with precise military terminology that couldn't adequately capture the extraordinary nature of what had transpired. The elimination of 8 enemy snipers by a single marksman in under 13 minutes represented a tactical achievement that defied conventional military doctrine and established new standards for what was considered possible under combat conditions. Maria's rifle was carefully inspected by military armorers after the mission, who confirmed that the weapon had performed flawlessly throughout the engagement. The barrel showed normal signs of heating from sustained fire, but no mechanical issues that could have affected accuracy. Every component of the weapon system had functioned exactly as designed, proving that the exceptional results achieved that day were due entirely to human skill rather than equipment advantages. The ammunition expenditure report showed that Maria had fired exactly 8 rounds during the engagement, with 0 rounds wasted on ranging shots or misses. This represented a 100% hit rate at ranges extending beyond normal combat engagement distances, achieved under time pressure that would typically degrade marksmanship performance significantly. Military analysts who later studied the engagement declared the accuracy rate to be unprecedented in recorded combat history. Intelligence analysis of the eliminated enemy positions revealed that the Taliban snipers had been exceptionally well equipped and trained. Their weapons included modern rifles chambered in military calibers, high-quality optical systems, and professional-grade camouflage and concealment equipment. These were not typical insurgent fighters, but rather specialized marksmen who had received advanced training and equipment from external sources. The tactical positioning of the enemy snipers demonstrated sophisticated understanding of advanced sniper employment principles. Their overlapping fields of fire, coordinated observation schedules, and prepared defensive positions indicated months of planning and preparation. The ambush had been designed to eliminate an entire special operations team, and under normal circumstances would likely have succeeded. Maria's personnel file was updated to reflect her exceptional performance during the engagement, but the specific details of her achievement remained classified for several years due to operational security concerns. The military wanted to prevent enemy forces from developing specific countermeasures against the tactics and techniques that had proven so effective. The wounded team members, Sergeant Mike Torres and Corporal Lisa Park, made full recoveries from their injuries after receiving proper medical treatment at the base hospital. Both soldiers credited Maria's actions with saving their lives, noting that their wounds would likely have proven fatal if the enemy sniper fire had continued for the additional 6 hours until extraction arrived. Captain Rodriguez recommended Maria for the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration awarded for valor in combat. His recommendation detailed not only the tactical significance of her achievement, but also the moral courage required to attempt something so dangerous when conventional military wisdom suggested it was impossible. The recommendation emphasized that Maria's actions had saved the lives of her entire team while eliminating a significant enemy threat. The Medal of Honor review process involved extensive investigation and verification of the events that had occurred that morning in Afghanistan. Multiple team members provided sworn statements confirming the details of Maria's engagement sequence, and forensic analysis of the enemy positions supported the technical aspects of her achievement. Independent ballistics experts confirmed that the shots described in the official reports were technically feasible for a marksman of exceptional skill. News of Maria's achievement spread throughout the military community, where it became legendary among snipers and special operations personnel worldwide. Training programs began incorporating case studies based on her tactics and techniques, and her engagement became required reading for advanced marksmanship students. Military academies used her story as an example of how individual skill and determination could overcome seemingly impossible odds. The classified after-action report noted that Maria's success had been enabled by several factors beyond her exceptional marksmanship ability. Her tactical analysis of the enemy positions had identified weaknesses that other soldiers had missed, and her movement to the eastern ridge had been executed with near-perfect concealment techniques. The combination of technical skill and tactical intelligence had created conditions that allowed for success where conventional approaches would have failed. International military observers who were briefed on the engagement declared it to be one of the most significant individual achievements in modern combat history. Representatives from allied nations requested detailed information about Maria's training methods and equipment specifications, hoping to develop similar capabilities within their own military forces. Maria herself remained characteristically modest about her achievement, consistently emphasizing the team nature of military operations and the contributions of her colleagues to the mission's success. She noted that her individual actions would have been meaningless without the tactical planning provided by Captain Rodriguez and the covering fire and support provided by her teammates during the engagement. The psychological impact of the engagement extended beyond its immediate tactical significance. Enemy forces in the region became significantly more cautious about employing sniper tactics against American forces, knowing that they might face counteraction from marksmen with capabilities beyond their previous experience. This deterrent effect contributed to improved security for subsequent operations in the area. Military historians who later analyzed the engagement placed it among the most significant individual combat achievements of the entire Afghanistan conflict. The technical precision required to accomplish what Maria had achieved, combined with the tactical circumstances under which it was executed, created a unique historical event that would be studied for decades to come. The long-term impact of Maria's achievement extended to improvements in military training programs and equipment development. Her success demonstrated the potential effectiveness of individual marksmen under specific circumstances, leading to increased investment in advanced sniper training and improved weapon systems designed to maximize human marksmanship capabilities. Years later, when the operational details were finally declassified, Maria's story became an inspiration to military personnel worldwide and to civilians who learned about her achievement through media coverage. Her demonstration that exceptional individuals could accomplish seemingly impossible tasks through skill, preparation, and determination resonated with people facing their own challenging circumstances. The rifle that Maria used during the engagement was retired from active service and placed in the military museum, where it stands as a testament to the combination of human skill and technological capability that made her achievement possible. A plaque describes the weapon's role in one of the most remarkable individual combat achievements in modern military history. Maria Santos continued her military career for several additional years before retiring with full honors and commendations for her service. She returned to her hometown in Texas, where she established a training program for young people interested in developing marksmanship skills and discipline. Her program emphasized not just technical shooting ability, but also the mental preparation and moral character required to use such skills responsibly. The legend of the 12 minutes in Afghanistan continues to inspire military personnel and civilians alike, proving that exceptional individuals can accomplish extraordinary things when faced with impossible circumstances. Maria's achievement stands as a permanent reminder that human potential, properly developed and applied, can overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges through skill, courage, and determination. Her story has become more than just a military legend. It represents the power of individual excellence to make a decisive difference when everything seems hopeless, inspiring people in all walks of life to pursue their own potential for exceptional achievement. The impossible had been made possible through 12 minutes of perfect execution under pressure that would have defeated almost anyone else. The valley in Afghanistan where these events occurred appears peaceful today, giving no indication of the extraordinary events that transpired there years ago. But for those who were present that morning, and for all who have learned Maria's story since then, that location will forever represent proof that sometimes one person really can change everything when it matters most.